So they built Fulton County Stadium, and Fulton County Stadium is really ugly.
What?
Yeah.
How can you say that? It doesn't even exist anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly. They tore it down because it was so ugly.
I thought it looked like the perfect, mid-century baseball, multi-use stadium that was for anything.
Yeah.
You could do monster trucks. You could play football. You could do baseball.
It was a giant concrete donut.
It was.
And
I have so many fond memories there as a kid. Though.
Do you?
So, yeah, I take offense when you say it's ugly.
Welcome to ATL, All Things Local, the podcast where two Atlanta natives take a deep dive into the heart of Atlanta communities and neighborhoods. I'm Adam Mincey, your go-to Atlanta Realtor.
And I'm Jeff Goddard, your trusted lender. Together, we're here to give you the inside scoop on areas in ATL, from their rich histories to their contemporary amenities.
So sit back and relax while we explore all that Atlanta has to offer.
Welcome back to ATL, All Things Local. I'm Jeffy, and I'm here with my co-host, Mincey.
What's going on, Jeffy? I'm Adam Mincey, and I'm a local real estate agent. And Jeffy, you are
I'm a recovering real estate agent, and now a mortgage lender, and an Atlanta Braves fan.
Well, that's great because you're wearing an Atlanta Braves hat.
I know. We're going to talk about a very Braves-ish related neighborhood in All Things Local, an area of town called Summerhill that's seen a lot of change over the years. And Mincey, why don't you tell us about Summerhill?
Yeah, would love to. The Braves are my favorite baseball team, and they're from Milwaukee. Did you know that?
But they were also from Boston.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. So
Weren't they Boston Braves and then Milwaukee Braves and then came to Atlanta?
I don't know, but I'll take your word for it.
1966, I think, is when they started.
Yeah, that sounds right. 1966. But today we're talking about Summerhill, and Summerhill is a very interesting neighborhood. It really started right after the Civil War. It was a mostly African-American neighborhood, a very thriving neighborhood, a place to go that was based on religion and schooling for kids. It's home to one of the first all-black schools here in Atlanta. The dates are always kind of hard to tell which one was actually first. You know, it could be 1867 or 1872.
And when you say first school, you're talking about first segregated public school for African-American children.
That's right. So what started as a church, they started teaching in what sounds like their basement. And, it ultimately got bought by the Atlanta Public Schools and then turned into a school.
Official school.
Fun fact, too, even one of the churches, the preacher of the church was Clark
Atlanta University.
Clark Atlanta University is named after, and some of those first classes were even in the basement at a church in Summerhill.
Interesting.
So some big names had lived there as well through the history of time. And Summerhill has also gone through a lot of growing pains. There's the big divide of the interstate dividing it and cutting it off. But if you're looking at a map, it's really close to downtown Atlanta. And Summerhill is a stone's throw from our Georgia capital.
I'd say like half mile.
It's very close.
Yeah.
It is very close. It sits just east of West End and Mechanicsville, and then it's pretty much butts straight up to Grant Park, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Peoplestown and Chosewood Park that surround it as well. But Summerhill is a really amazing neighborhood. By the 1900s, for almost 50 years, was a thriving community that Georgia Avenue was really the heart of. It was the heartbeat of it.
On Georgia Avenue, you had everything a thriving neighborhood needed.
Yeah. So grocery stores, markets, butcher shops, ice cream shop, and even a movie theater, and I think even Piedmont Hospital.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Was in Summerhill. And so, it was really thriving. And then from the 1930s until the 1950s, it really went through some downturns and struggles. You had, obviously, after World War II, that there was a lot of things that were changing, things were happening.
You had a lot of homes being built after World War II.
And a lot of those homes were being built on the north side. Money was kind of expanding in a different direction in our city, and especially Atlanta. It was more accessible to be able to move because of automobiles, and they were building bigger lots, newer modern homes. Fast forward to the late 1950s, and Ivan Allen Jr. starts running for his candidacy as mayor of Atlanta, and his big thing is he's going to bring a baseball team here. And so how do you bring a baseball team here?
I don't know. Money, I guess.
Well, yeah, you need a lot of money, but you also need a stadium for them to play in.
That's true.
Yeah. So what was originally built was Fulton County Stadium.
Saw Michael Jackson there.
Oh, you know the Beatles played there too?
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I was doing some research on this, but the Beatles played. That was like the Beatles played in Atlanta.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So they built Fulton County Stadium, and Fulton County Stadium is really ugly.
What?
Yeah.
How can you say that? It doesn't even exist anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly. They tore it down because it was so ugly.
I thought it looked like the perfect, like, mid-century baseball, multi-use stadium that was for anything.
Yeah.
You could do monster trucks. You could play football. You could do baseball.
It was a giant concrete donut.
It was.
And
I have so many fond memories there as a kid, though.
Do you?
So, yeah, I take offense when you say it was ugly.
Well, I mean, it just wasn't the pre-World War II stadiums like Fenway Park or some of those.
And it wasn't starting in the 1990s, you saw all of these stadiums being built specifically for the sport.
Well, yes, that's how we got the next stadium, the more open-air traditional stadium, which was Turner Field, named after the Braves owner, Ted Turner, who also owns Turner Broadcasting and, TBS, if you will, or TNT, all of those stations. But back when we first were building the stadium, Ivan Allen Jr., they all went out to get a baseball team. And first they went to the American League to get a baseball team.
Thank goodness we didn't get an American League team.
Oh, no, we didn't. The American League denied us. They were like, we're not bringing a baseball team to Atlanta, But so there were a couple of years where the Atlanta Crackers, our minor league team, played at Fulton County Stadium. Seats were filled. It was fun. Everybody was in anticipation.
And everybody thinks Atlanta Crackers is a joke, but that's really the name.
Oh, that's the team name. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, so the Braves come in 1967. The Falcons also played in Fulton County Stadium until the Dome was built. Mm-hmm. The first Atlanta Braves game, they went into extra innings. They lost. Falcons also lost their first game. We had about 25 years of losing Braves and Falcons for that time. Falcons have not had the best history, but the Braves finally won a World Series.
Mid-90s, 95, which was right around the time that the Olympics were coming, which was another big thing in Summerhill.
That's right. The Olympics were during when there wasn't much going on in Summerhill. There was an article, and I'll see if I can find this and post it up there, that said the other 286 days of the year, and it had just empty streets, because at this time, that whole downtown of Georgia Avenue is abandoned buildings that have plywood, and it's all boarded up. Then you have Turner Field built.
Well,
and
originally it was built as the Olympic Stadium.
That's right. It was the track and field stadium.
And it was fully round, or fully oval.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And after the Olympics, they had, can I tell you about during the Olympics?
Please, I went there during the Olympics too.
All right. I don't want to steal your thunder. Yeah. So we had as Adam says, ugly stadium, Fulton County Stadium. Lots of good memories there. And then we needed another stadium for the Olympics. So we built right next to it the Olympic Stadium, it looked like what an Olympic Stadium would look like for track and field and all that kind of stuff, with the plan that the Braves would take over that stadium after it was completed and then turn it into one of those early 90s style built just for baseball. And so they basically tore down a third of the stadium, like the outfield, and turned it into an actual baseball focused stadium, which was a great stadium.
Yeah.
Which still begs the question, why aren't we still using it?
Georgia State bought the stadium, and all of the land around there was purchased by Carter Developments, and they had a huge revitalization of that area. And so Georgia Avenue, all of those original buildings were still there, still boarded up. Carter came in and redeveloped that neighborhood. They also sold off some of that land.
And does Carter have anything to do with Jimmy Carter?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I just wanted to verify.
That sounded like a trick question. Maybe. No, I mean, not to my knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. If you would think we would know if that was the case.
Yeah. And if we're wrong and someone knows anything about that, like, would love to
There
hear
are plenty
that.
of other Carters in the world, but when you say Carter around Atlanta, it usually means Jimmy.
That's true. That is true. So Carter came in, they redeveloped it. It's really cute downtown, and the neighborhood overall, it's got a lot of walkability to it. It looks like one of those old traditional southern towns that you can walk up and down. Not really tall buildings, just the shorter buildings.
The thing that's interesting to me is that you had Grant Park to the east, which has always, granted, there is an actual park there, even when it wasn't as established as it is now. You had that, and then downtown, and then between there, for so many decades, Summerhill just sat kind of useless. And I should say they underutilized for something, and that's just perplexing to me.
Yeah.
Like, why was that?
Well, it was kind of a food desert for a long time. And I always thought about this, and I was, maybe even before I got into real estate, I was always like, why is there not a grocery store down here? And there really wasn't. And now they just, in the last 2 years, opened up the Publix in Summerhill. But before then, it was like there was nothing. And I think even the Glenwood Park Kroger was a precursor to the Publix that they opened. A huge win for that area. It was a food desert for a long time, but it's undergone a huge turnaround.
That's primarily due to the Carter development?
100%. Obviously it started with real estate before that. So people going in and buying homes that were close to Grant Park. The Beacon on the other side is maybe a development that happened before Carter did Summerhill. And Summerhill is the name of Carter's development on Georgia Avenue. But the Beacon was, I don't want to say like a bust of a mixed-use development, because there is some great spots there.
Yeah, it's still heavily utilized.
It is. And that probably started a lot of the Summerhill development as it kind of kicked down. Grant Park moved its farmers market to Eventide and across the street from Eventide, the parking lot. But then, all the real estate development started happening around there. They're kind of unique because if you go to Grant Park, it is a historic neighborhood, and you can either build a Craftsman or a Victorian. Well, in Summerhill, there's a lot of modern homes. And they're really smaller lots. They're not quite as wide. And so you have to be a little bit creative with your use of your footprint on your home. I've sold a couple 3-story homes there, and some of them have rooftop decks, and they live kind of like a townhome, but they're modern, they're very sleek, kind of a unique design. And then some cinder block, smaller homes, there's a lot of those around Summerhill. Its first redevelopment happened, like you said, during the Olympics. The torch is still out there off of Hank Aaron, and it's definitely gone through a big transition from where it was. But yeah, it's a great place to live now. There's lots of people walking around having a great time. I get my hair cut there. Maggie Murphy's.
Is that like the one that's in Cabbagetown?
So they started at Cabbagetown. Yeah. That is Mary Todd.
Okay.
And they were the top 2 barbers, and Jumpy and Cece are their names, and they ended up moving over to open this place.
Are they still very on brand? Like everything is just jam up on brand?
Oh, it's awesome. They don't have like their own pomades and stuff like Mary Todd did, but yeah, it's a wonderful haircut experience. You walk in.
It's an experience.
It is, yeah. And then there's Halfway Crooks, great brewery.
Yeah, that got listed as one of the top breweries in Atlanta, I saw.
Yeah, and I've got some friends that run that company as well, and that's a great spot to hang out. You also have, Big Softy ice cream, which kind of throws back to what was there before. Todd Ginsburg, who owns General Muir, he's got Woodchapel's Barbecue, which is an ode to the neighborhood as well, right, with Woodchapel being one of the churches there.
What do you think the future holds for Summerhill?
Yeah, Summerhill's interesting. I think it's got a great upswing. It's got great potential. It's one of those neighborhoods who has all this rich Atlanta history, and it has the downtown to hang out in and go and have fun. But I think it's an awesome place to live. I think it's really got a great opportunity to continue to grow. I go there every Wednesday morning to run on Cheney track, and it's one of the only tracks you can go to in Atlanta that's open to the public. But yeah, it's just, it's a really great place because it does have, these small streets that are somewhat narrow, and it feels like a neighborhood. And
as much as I was kind of miffed that the Braves moved, I liked having them downtown. The Battery has turned into a really great development for that part of town.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people invested in real estate just because of that, because there is so much going on in that part of town now. When it was happening, everybody was like, this is the craziest thing in the world to move from downtown to the corner of 285 and 75.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to have worked out really well. And Georgia State has now become different than when I was there, and everyone was a commuter student. Nobody lived downtown. And now there's actual activity in downtown Atlanta because you have tens of thousands of young people living there, at least for school.
Mm-hmm.
And these neighborhoods that are quarter mile, half mile from the state capitol actually have people living in them again.
That's right.
And so now that we have people actually living in and close to downtown, I think downtown Atlanta will be more than just the Ferris wheel and Phillips or State Farm or Phillips or whatever it is these days, arena and the dome and the aquarium and all that. But we'll actually start to see more things for people to do in downtown Atlanta other than just the touristy things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I hope the same for downtown Atlanta. But, I hope the same for Summerhill. I hope it continues to grow. And
I mean, proximity-wise, it kind of has to.
Yeah, it's right there on the Beltline, so.
That's interesting. Well, Thanks for telling us about Summerhill.
Go Braves.
Go Bravos. Well, thanks for joining us on ATL, All Things Local. Hit us up with any questions, and if there's a specific neighborhood you want us to cover, just let us know. Adios.